mute your speaker and microphone. They can hear us through these microphones, but if you have anything on your computer active, you will get that feedback thing. Mute your speaker. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to join Zoom. No, look, we're live on YouTube. Awesome. Ready there, Mr.
So
TJ?
this is all about the master plan.
Yes, that's
For
whole package.
discussion 8.2 and then for 9.4.
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Cooper. How are you?
Good, how you doing?
Doing good. Ready for spring break?
Yes, ma'am.
Nice. I bet all the kids are too.
Yes, they are. Gee, I have the bus tonight, so they wouldn't come tomorrow.
I heard a lot of
Yes, you
kids
are.
say they were not coming.
My daughter said, if there's a delay, there's no school. She's like, so I hope there's
All
a
right,
delay.
are we
Because
ready?
there's early
Yeah,
release,
because it doesn't make sense. Yeah, so
Need
she's
some more
like, I'm
time?
hoping for a delay.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm hoping that you get to go to school.
All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:30 p.m. on March 16th, 2022. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. We really miss not having students in the audience, so one of them can lead, but pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I get a roll call, please, sir?
Ms. Combs?
Present?
Mr. Lippert, aye. Mr. Ricks, absent with prior notice. And that'll be the last time I'll say it for tonight.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Swayze?
Aye, here.
And Mr. Underwood?
Here. Brings us to modification approval of the agenda. I'd like to make a motion to add action item 9.5, Education Workforce Program Grant Assurances. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any other motions to modify the agenda? Call for the vote, please, sir.
Ms. Combs?
Aye.
Mr. Lippert, aye. Mr. Swayze?
Aye.
Mr. Underwood?
All right. Brings us to open forum. Still no one signed up for open forum? Thank you. All right, it brings us to 5.0 consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Swayze. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Lippert. Call for the vote, please, sir.
Ms. Combs?
Aye.
Mr. Lippert, aye. Mr. Swayze?
Aye.
Mr. Underwood?
Aye, motion carries. Consent agenda is approved. That brings us to board comments. Mr. Swayze, sir.
I just would like to make sure everybody knows that our staff in the high school and middle school is doing an outstanding job. Our principal and our AD, or whatever you want to call Mr. Jordahl, I think they're doing a fantastic job. I've caught them in the hall many, many times watching the students, talking to the students. And I want to make sure everybody knows that they're on the ball up there, and I appreciate them. All of them, teachers included.
Is that it, sir?
That's it.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lippert, sir.
I'll second that, but I also went down to Prairie Heights. Just amazing staff there as well. The kids are marvelous, and either school I go to, I have just had such a great time with the kids. I like to eat lunch with them. I had a good time. The staff, fantastic. It's an absolute pleasure to represent and talk to them. So,
Thank you. Mrs. Combs.
I just want to say thank you for all the support with the sports. this year. Our boys, I know that canceling school was a big, it weighed heavy on a lot of people. The decision wasn't made lightly. I know the boys in the team really appreciated it. I heard a lot of staff appreciated it as well, so that way they could go. We hadn't been to regionals in a very long time. And so I want to say from last year's attendance to sports to this year's, the fans have definitely shown up to regular games, to parent night, to the regional game. We had a very good turnout. I feel like we're starting to create that community. I think it's bigger than sports. It's about creating that community together. And so it was nice to see. I just want to say thank you to everyone's understanding for that decision and supporting it. I just want to say thank you to all the staff for showing up every day, showing up for our kids, showing up for, and this is from the bus drivers to the maintenance, to the custodians, to every teacher and administration. Thank you for showing up. It's hard these days to be a teacher. So I just appreciate everything that you guys do. And to the parents, once again, as always, thank you for entrusting us with your children to educate them and trust us with them. So I just want to say, I hope everyone has a great March. We're starting to wrap up. Spring break is next week. I think it's needed for all the students as well as the staff. I hope everyone can have a little rejuvenation and come back, and let's hit this last quarter of the year hard. And I can't believe we're already here, 3/4 of the way through. So I just want to say, let's make the last of it a great year. Thanks again.
Ready.
Sir.
One more thing. I want to make sure everybody knows the parents that showed up at the basketball game, the boys really appreciated it, so did the coach. Because a lot of them did not have kids. They were just members of the community. One of them was Pat and her husband.
Yep.
I just say them because they've been supporting the sports all year long. But a lot of parents that did not have kids, we had a big turnout from Edison supporting us too. I want to make sure everybody knows that. That's
It was
fantastic.
great to see.
Yes.
So, anything else?
Thank you, Randy.
No, that's it.
Okay, all right, so budget preparation is upon us. And I know I've said this before, but I want to say it again. I don't know how much more emphatic I can be. I think last year I even raised my voice when I said this. Teachers, please ask for what you need. You see these posts on Facebook by the teachers and like, I spend so much of my personal money buying supplies for the classroom. Don't. I think we can afford it. I had a conversation with the business manager last week. She agrees. Please ask for what you need. Another point of emphasis on this is, we talk about it quite a bit. How, a fair number of the families in our district live at or below the poverty line. And then we have this list of everything that we're expecting every student to bring in, paper towels and crayons and pencils. Don't do that. Ask for it. I think we can afford it. I mean, we plan to put 6 figures into the fund balance this year. I can't imagine that 200 packs of crayons is going to break us. I know we don't pay teachers a lot, so I don't want them to spend their money on that. We don't want to ask the families to provide that stuff. Please, teachers, staff, everyone, ask for what you need. Now, I will caveat that and say at the end of the day, I can't guarantee anything. We have to rack and stack, and there may be some things that fall off the boat, but that shouldn't stop you from asking. All right, please. I say it every year. I'm not joking. I really want you to do it. I probably had a whole bunch of other things, but I got wrapped up in that. All right, Mr. Superintendent, sir.
Yes. So we want to thank Ms. Pat for her help with the preschool grant. Preschool really appreciates that and the reporting. She's really helping out. Ms. Jody wanted me to take an extra time to publicly thank her. She also wanted to tell everybody preschool is starting early registration in April, so keep your eyes open for that. PHE had great fun with Dr. Seuss Day and decorating doors. Parent teacher conferences are taking place this week, in fact, even today. And I want to say that PHE has an awesome staff as well. As usual, the board members are stealing my thunder on several things here. Stuco
That's why
is
you go
working
last,
on
sir.
holiday celebrations, and I know Ms. Cheeseman really wants to thank her staff. She said they're absolutely incredible and awesome this year. The junior senior high school wanted me to say the same thing to the parents, to the community. A huge commendation for the support of the basketball team, the bus send off, the number of people at the playoffs game and at the brush game at regionals. They also wanted to say that middle school had their knowledge bowl for their match wits. Mr. Koopman wanted me to relay that the teacher conferences that are going on right now were changed after conversations with parents last fall. They encouraged him to be more flexible and when those parent-teacher conferences took place. And that's why they are doing a family focus night tomorrow night so that parents can show up in person. They can still Zoom if they want that. They can schedule all of that is on the table. We realize that Friday is the day before spring break for everybody, and maybe parents would rather not take Friday or Friday evening to come in and do that. So they're trying to be very flexible with that. Career Start with Pikes Peak Community College registration is taking place right now for next year for students that want to sign up for any type of CTE course. In addition, we are doing concurrent enrollment for students, so we really encourage students that want to take either of those to get with their counselor. Also want to say middle school wrestling and high school track has started. Operations would like to say those football field lights are going in the next month, end of April. Middle school wrestling has started and finished.
They had their first and last match in the same day.
They got third in the district out of 5 schools. So we're actually kind of excited that we're starting to build a wrestling program here. I'm excited to see it as well. A huge thanks from me goes out to our bus drivers and our operations staff for taking care of our students. A huge shout out to our food service teams for the nutritious food being provided as well. And I want to thank the park board and the community members that met with me at the Firehouse Pancake Breakfast on Sunday. I met with several former board members to discuss our vision for the district and our vision for the park. I'm encouraging everyone to please attend that pancake breakfast. We will have an opportunity to talk with an administrator each and every month. As far as the budget goes, my philosophy is it's our job to figure out a way to say yes. In the central office and the support staff, our job is to serve teachers and the schools so that they can serve our students and take care of them. So whatever you need, please, again, I reiterate, don't hesitate to ask. And last, have a fun and safe spring break. And that's all I have.
Well, and if the weather does turn nasty, be safe out there tomorrow, people.
Yes.
Any alibis, sir? All right. That brings us to 7.0 deck report to the board. Mrs. Scoggin. Make sure that microphone's on and check it. Quick alibi.
Can I say a quick
Yeah.
alibi? I would like to say thank you to Miss Underwood for this beautiful brand new podium that she built herself. And Miss Scoggins, you get to be the first person to use it.
Without Randy's help.
Without, you know.
No. Okay, that was a juxtaposed statement. Lori built it without my help. She doesn't need my help to use it.
And it does look like it's on.
Oh, awesome.
So quick summary of the DAC report. We talked through SCAP mostly about how can we send multiple messages to make sure that we get the best participation as possible, especially so that we can know what's going on in the district, what people want to see out of the district. ICAP follow-up, we're checking with Miss Nina to see if she needs anything further from us or how we can help her facilitate that. We will be sending out a survey to the parents and the students, mostly about communication. What are their concerns? What are they wanting to see? What are they wanting more of? What are they wanting less of? Really so that we can make sure that communication part is hit well. We discussed in May doing a virtual town hall of some sort to introduce the Parent Square app to the community. This is so the summer gets really busy. We don't want to burden families with doing that this summer, but we feel like suddenly jumping it upon them in August isn't going to be the best thing either. So hopefully we can have Mr. Cooper's help with that, just because he has experience. I volunteered already to help facilitate that and kind of be the ringleader of the fiasco, but
Thank you.
possibly movie night was put on hold for now, just because there's multiple things going on before the end of the school year. I talked about maybe doing that this summer or just putting off until next fall. But being there was one at the elementary school, we didn't want to leave out the high school, middle school students either. Discuss possibly using the tour to Hanover or the Hanover Days as a possible community outreach opportunity, just to bring more awareness about DAC and the school board and getting more participation out of the community into our school district. PHE, you guys talked about a lot of this already. Parent teacher conferences, Dr. Seuss week at both schools were awesome. Something to keep note of is there is a silent auction coming up for the PTA over at PHE. As well as a joint effort between the PTA and PTSA for the cookbook. So anybody listening future, make sure you're keeping those favorite recipes on hand so that we can all put together this awesome Hanover cookbook.
Is the auction gonna be online like it was?
It is going to be online. We figure that's going to be the easiest way to reach the most people. Junior high school, like we said already, the support from for the basketball team was absolutely incredible. Middle school wrestling, it sounds like went really well. The middle school Mashwit is coming up. And the last thing that I've got on my list is we are still recruiting. I would love to have another parent co-chair to help me out. So we're looking at opportunities to help recruit as well. So if you're interested, please join DAC.
Thank you.
And to get a hold of Ms. Scoggin, it's really hard. Okay, DAC@HanoverHornets.org.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to, thank you very much, by the way, ma'am. Brings us to 8.1, February special policy updates. So as you know, every once in a while, CASB does some special policy updates. This time around, they did 4 policies. And on one of them, they only changed a note. So we didn't bring that one forward. We'll put that in the regular review cycle. AC was just we had to assign a person by name in the policy. And then DJB was some really minor, it's federal procurement is what DJB is. And that was just really loosening of the restrictions, you know, from shall to should or stuff like that. And the biggest one is JICDE. They really enhanced that one quite a bit. Expanded the definition of some things, and then they reorganized, basically. That's one of the most red lines. Very few substantive changes outside of the definition section. See, that's the thing, the way the changes come in. They had bullying defined before, but it was bullying and something else, and they just changed it to bullying. Okay. So unless there's any objections, we'll move those 3 policies forward next month for second read and approval. Any questions on those policies? Okay. Brings us to 8.2, master plan. Sir, you are up.
All right, well, thank you for your time tonight and having us back again. again, Carl Hurst with Iconergy. And so just two things to cover tonight. And I've got the two speakers lined up. They'll be talking virtually, but just a quick update on the BEST grant. We got that submitted, as you all know, February 4th. We're in the middle of the kind of back and forth questions and clarifications process. So we've got another few responses due on Monday. And so we are working to support Superintendent Cooper on getting the responses made and the clarifications. And very good sign from my view. Minor clarifications and no showstoppers that I can see. But again, not over until the board hears it. So from this point forward, it goes after we submit, then our application will get submitted to the board and they'll start their review. And then on schedule, there's hearings in May, and the process continues. So in the meantime, as we talked before, it is time now to move on and help get your planning going for what might be phase 2. The next steps in that planning is to start with the demographic plan and the master plan, as we talked about. And per Superintendent Cooper's request, I provided the board with a summary, budget summary, and a very brief scope summary of both the demographic plan and the master plan. And tonight, each of the providers, we've got Western Demographics and Shannon Bigham is going to head up the demographic study. And then Jessica Blanford from MOA Architects is heading up the master planning. There's kind of two components that fit together and integrate together closely to provide the needs that we've identified for the district. And I do need to just make a comment. Back in September, provided some guidance on what I felt was a budgetary range for this next step. And it's coming back a little higher than that, but it's needed. I was underestimating, it's kind of saying, well, we could really kind of skimp on this or skimp on that. But after understanding more about the district and talking to the two experts you're going to speak with tonight, the recommendation we're coming back with is, I think, valuable and will inevitably get the district to the goals that you're looking for to help you plan for the future. So unless there's further questions on that.
I have one major question, sir.
Yes.
Considering the schedule of things, is there any reasonable way do you believe for us to defer the initiation of this process until after we determine whether or not we were awarded the BEST grant and still be ready with appropriate language if there's a ballot question in November?
So in my opinion, the answer to that is unfortunately no, because of the work and the data that you're going to need in order to line up for the bond campaign. Should you still be targeting this November for the bond campaign? That's sort of the critical path.
Well, that's what's on the agenda for later on in the meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think to start that, but the other point there, and I think both of our experts tonight can tell you that the process that they're starting and continuing with is valuable information that this district sooner or later is going to need anyway. So we have been asked to make sure it's okay to defer any kind of compensation for this till after July, which we've worked out. And so, that can get it to your next year's budget without impacting pre-July.
News. That's news.
Okay.
We knew we asked the question. We knew the answer was coming. We just hadn't heard it yet.
We worked it out. So again, between our trade partners and us, and we're going to take care of that and assist in that way if that's still necessary, right? So we're willing to make that stretch for you all, and we want to help. So with again, any other questions? I think at this point I've asked both Shannon Bigham from Western Demographics and Jessica Blanford to each provide a 15-minute sort of summary, high-level summary of their components. So we'll start with the demographic plan, and if Shannon is connected up virtually here. Shannon, can you hear us?
I can hear everyone. I don't have video of myself, and I'm wearing a tie. Can you hear me though?
Well, Shannon is a world-renowned and a Colorado famous demographer, and so again, Shannon, go ahead, and I think 15-minute overview, and then we want to get the board chance to ask questions, and then we'll move on to the master plan in the same format.
Well, thank you, Carl. Well, good evening, everybody. It's a privilege to be here. My name is Shannon Bingham. I own Western Demographics. I am kind of the grand old man of Colorado school planning. I've been around for almost 40 years now. I was the first planning director of Academy 20, and then I was the planning director of Boulder Valley. And then I worked for the Department of Education for a while and went into private practice. And since then, I've worked for about 200 different school districts, mostly in Colorado. I live in Lyons, east of Longmont, and work all over the state and work all over the Western US, in Alaska and Washington State and Oregon and elsewhere. Mostly do the sort of thing that you're looking at tonight, assisting districts with capital facility needs. And then I do a lot of some of the most difficult things that school districts ever do, such as splitting in half, changing boundaries, a variety of things like that, closing schools, activating new schools, packaging bond elections. So this is kind of my forte. It's kind of an odd thing for most people. It's exactly what I was trained to do, and I've never done anything else. So really enjoy this sort of work. I work for a lot of small districts all over the West, and for housing affordability reasons, a lot of the smaller districts in the state are really beginning to see some unprecedented growth, because those are places where we have a lot of affordable land. And so development pressure is really steering toward the small district in Colorado and elsewhere in the West. So very recently, I've been engaged with Wiggins, Brush, Kingsburg, Lochbuie, Bennett, Strasburg, Highlands Alt, which includes Alt, Pierce, and Nunn, Johnstown, Milliken School District, Windsor, Monument, Salida. I've also worked recently for Gunnison, Lamar, Granada, Montrose, Eads, Craig, Hayden. So a lot of these smaller districts are starting to see a lot of growth pressure. So what I've shown you is a proposal to do a demographic study, ask a bunch of hard questions of some of the developers and municipal leaders that are planning growth on the northern edge of the Hanover School District, and trying to figure out what our future would hold so that you make good decisions now that anticipate what your future might hold. So my process is very organic. I tend to interview people. So as part of my process, I would make sure that I had a sit down with every one of these folks that have some sort of a plan to develop new housing in Hanover School District, ask them what they're going to do, when are they going to do it, what's the likelihood of achieving their plan, and to what extent might it produce children. And so I think that's really important, even though we are a one-round school district at the moment with one class at each grade level. At a certain point, we're going to become a 2-round school district and then a 3-round school district. And right now we're operating in our 2 main buildings, but at a certain point, we'll be adding a 3rd. It seems fairly obvious to me that that 3rd building would be on the northern edge of the school district, proximate to the growth that Fountain and possibly Colorado Springs would support, and that we would need to, at some point, make a decision whether we bus children across the district to the schools in the heart of the district, or do we establish a separate facility? And then the big question becomes, when does that happen? To a certain extent, we would be serving children in our existing facilities until we have enough children to justify another building. From an efficiency standpoint, we would need to think about that. And if the timing of that is significantly beyond the scope of what you want to do with the BEST grant, then we could acknowledge that that is significantly in the future. If it's not significantly in the future, what we do now is somewhat affected by what could happen to us in the future with that additional growth. So my proposal here includes kind of the standard BEST grant exploration that the Colorado Department of Education is really insisting that every BEST grant application have all these pieces and parts. and they know exactly what they're looking for. I've done 10 or 12 of these. They're used to my stuff. It's what they see most of the time. And we pretty much have to look at birth rates, growth in the community, job growth, if any. Are we a bedroom community? Will that persist? What's our housing growth situation? What's our, is our birth rate increasing or declining? Are we growing overall? Those sorts of things. So in general, I'm proposing that we do this very thorough exploration of how growth is going to affect the district within a reasonable period of time, probably 10 years, and really go far to try to get a really good handle on that. And if we don't need to be addressing that, and we're mostly looking at a school condition best grant, then knowing that has an incredible amount of value. So the heart of my proposal there are the fundamentals of that best grant proposal. And as you're looking at Carl's memo there, you're seeing that I would develop an 8-year forecast that would probably be more like 10. We would develop utilization rates for our existing facilities, which best is looking for. Now, regarding portable classrooms, I am systematically helping most of the districts in the state get out of portable classrooms. So we just got rid of half of the ones that we're using in Greeley, and we're getting rid of another 12 or 14 next fall through some boundary changes. So I really would encourage you to, as you consider what you can afford, to explore the idea of trying to have permanent space instead of portable classrooms as you go forward, for several reasons that I don't need to get into tonight. So as part of my process, I would develop a presentation that you could use to raise awareness in your community of what your needs are, to build support for the BEST grant application and process. And then I would assist Carl and the rest of the team in putting everything together. I have a couple of optional items there. One would be facilitating a capital committee. Now, I don't know whether that's consistent with the goals of the district or whether that would just include the board and a couple of key administrators and accountability folks. But for the most part, you're going to get a bunch of data from your architect team that says, well, we could go down this road or that road, and the question becomes, what do we do? And I've become pretty valuable to a lot of smaller districts in figuring out a way to, through considering options, doing cost benefit, pro con of various scenarios, sometimes what's called a SWOT process, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Go through that and figure out what is the best course of action given the various future potentials. I do a lot of internal polling. I do a lot of SurveyMonkey-based polling where you can poll yourself confidentially, look at the results without tipping your hand, and then make a decision based on how you feel about a certain course of action as a group, and then become unified behind a certain strategy. So that's one service that I've helped with. Sometimes that's not necessary. Sometimes you can just put a pizza and some soda in the middle of a table and set aside an hour, and everybody can kind of figure that out on their own. But I did want to offer an option for you to use me as a facilitator to help you get through that process. Usually I try to do that in 4 or 5 2-hour meetings, depending upon the complexity of what's needed. Obviously, you'll need to get up to speed on some building condition issues that you have. So we would need to have adequate time to do that if we did choose that route. The other option is I do a lot of community survey work. We just did one a couple of years ago in Douglas County where we had 18,000 participants. And in that survey, we were asking what was important to people. Did they want to continue to build new buildings, or were they more interested in boundary changes and using what they had? How did they feel about portable classrooms? How did they feel about K-8s? How did they feel about 6th grade in their middle schools? So via those kind of things, we can collect a lot of community feeling about what is the most important, how important is efficiency, how do you feel about portable classrooms? And so doing those sorts of things could really help you understand the comfort to which your community would have in funding bond improvements that would eliminate your portable classroom needs. And again, portables are really for air quality and security reasons becoming less prevalent in public schools, and a lot of districts are stepping away from them. So if you wanted to do a little community survey to help you figure out if what you would want to have in a bond package, that little option 2 there would cover us being able to do that. I would be depending upon the district to give me email lists and phone numbers and stuff to that effect. So anyway, that's the service that I could offer. Again, I've done this over and over and over again for 40 years. I'm tactful. I don't think I've ever thoroughly stuck my foot in my mouth, but there's always a first time. But I think that I could be of service to your district and would certainly be delighted to help you with your needs. So with that, I'll pause and respond to any questions that you might have.
Any questions? I personally don't have any questions.
With the survey, just to be clear, if that option 2 was taken, you would be vetting different language for the potential November campaign, correct?
Yes, I would write the survey for you, and we would be figuring out what your community priorities are, what do people believe they would support, and beyond that, if those items were in a bond package on a ballot, would they vote for it? And so that would be kind of a budget version of what Tell Me Drake does with all of their telephone call-based surveys. So I would probably be doing the majority of this via SurveyMonkey. So people would be taking the survey on their phone in 5 to 7 minutes. So when you make it that easy, you tend to get a pretty high response rate. And I've been doing these over and over and over again. And I have a former District 11 administrator who has retired and helps me with surveys. So between the two of us, we have a pretty good handle on how to collect stakeholder feedback.
Can we choose option, do we have to choose both options or like, can we choose one and not the other?
No, they stand alone. The main proposal and those two options are in menu. You could pick whatever you like. We could do 2 and not 1. If you feel you could facilitate your own process, that would be fine. I'd be delighted to just do the survey for you. So that's entirely up to you.
Okay.
Can we add one later if we decide we want to do that?
I've been around for 40 years. I'm not going anywhere. So
right.
Let me know if you wanted to do it, and we could, obviously Carl has a process in mind to kind of get you folks to where you need to be. So we would be best served by sticking with that. But again, timing is up to you.
And then again, the other critical path is the November election and everything.
Right.
The data that needs to be collected, and again, once a decision is made to go or no go, lock these things in. But there's a few of them that need to start right now.
Right.
And Shannon, I guess you would need to determine, at what would be the last point you could start an option 1 or an option 2 without losing, results and data use from that moving forward. So anyway, yeah, well, good. Well, thanks.
Yeah.
Shannon, thanks so much. And you're
Thank
welcome
you.
to hang on. And with that, we'll quickly move into the second component, which is absolutely just as valuable, and the two together integrate to get the full picture put together for, again, a bond campaign and a best grant for expansion of facilities or improvement of facilities. So without further ado, I'll introduce, turn it over to Jessica. But one other side note, Jessica also is the one who provided me and you all with the bus barn example that you're looking for. So they're working on that project. So if that project comes to any more serious nature, then on a side note, that you should talk to Jessica more about that on another another time. So again, thanks for that, Jessica, and I'll turn it over to you now.
Well, thank you, Carl, and thank you guys for having me tonight. Can you all hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you fine.
All right, great. So my name is Jessica Blanford. I work for MOA Architecture. We do building master planning and building design throughout the state of Colorado and up into Wyoming. Most recently, we've been working with the Pueblo 60 School District. We did their master plan, and then we are the architects on 5 of their new buildings, including the 2 BEST grants that were successful. And then we've done some work up in Colorado Springs as well. If you happen to be up there, check out Chinook Middle School. That's one of ours as well. So we would take over after Shannon is able to provide us some demographic studies. So we start out with data collection and situation analysis, and that's where we're looking at the current buildings, what the current buildings are capable of. We look at, I know that you guys have done some assessments of mechanical systems and things like that with Iconergy, but we start to look at, we call it identifying opportunities for outstanding learning facilities. So if there are parts of your curriculum or things like that that the current facilities don't support, we start to look at the capacities of your existing buildings, and we start to determine all of those facility needs that are out there. We take Shannon's information and gather all of that as well. And then we start to look at the goals of the district and the guiding principles from the district. If you do that through, if you get that information through the survey with Shannon, that would be passed on to us, or you may come to us with those goals as well. And then we work to look at where we see gaps or where we see opportunities in the district. And then we move on to the next portion, which is option development and refinement. So we look at multiple options for how to meet the needs of the district. So it might be building new schools if the demography comes back and says, you know, there's going to be a lot of growth in the district. It might be additions, it might be renovations, all kinds of things to, like I said, support curriculum, to support additional students and needs in the district, and things like that. We usually look at 4 options, 5 options. So we look at multiple options and not just a single one. And then we bring those options back to discuss with the stakeholder group, whether that's the board itself or a group that you guys have brought together. And we try to get feedback on all the different options, as well as presenting some of the pros and cons, costs, and things like that. From there, once the district has focused on an option or focused on 2 options, we might go back and do some further development. But ultimately, we like to get down to a single option to develop into a draft of the master plan. From there, we'll do a draft that, of course, will come back to the team, to the board and others to review, make sure it aligns with all of the goals and things that we have established in the beginning, and reviewing through there. And then our final master plan would come out to be approved by the board. And of course, that could be posted to the website in advance of a bond. And then the final master plan, of course, would be formatted in a way that meets the BEST grant requirements as well. So with that, I'll turn it over if you guys have any questions about the master planning.
Do you have one question for you? So I'm assuming the demographics and the master plan development are serial items, one done before the other, since the master plan relies on demographic data. Am I correct?
Not completely. There's going to be overlap.
Okay.
And I mean, I think.
So what I'm trying to get, Carl, I should have just asked the question.
When do we start?
If we start April 1st, between the demographic study and the overlap and the master plan, when would we expect to be done?
So that is also predicated. We've had some conversation about it. Jessica, the target for all of this is set on the decision and when you need to file for the bond. And then when that information needs to start coming in. So, Jessica, I don't want to speak for you. What was the timeline? I think your process is probably the longer time frame. And I know there's parts of that need to be started before the demographic study is completed. And
Okay.
so that's the overlap part.
Okay.
And Jessica, if you could speak to that, and then I guess we'll ask Shannon to speak to his timeline. But
It's really not that important.
no,
of a question. I mean,
we'll match those together to meet the needs. And I
I'm
guess,
just curious.
yeah.
Out of curiosity.
Right. I think the goal is to have the master plan done this summer, in advance for that, so that you could then use that to vote and decide if it's going on the ballot or things like that. Right. And so usually that needs to be done in July or August to make sure that that's out there. And then that way, your community can read it, weigh in on it and things like that. We also like to get things like determining your goals and initiatives, or where the facilities meeting the curriculum are not done before the end of the school year. So that means we need to kind of do that in April and May before we lose everyone in June. And then we can start getting our data collection in terms of your current school capacities, your current facilities, and how they're functioning. We can start to do that before we get the demographics from Shannon. So those are the things we like to do while school is still in session, where we can talk to everybody and all the educators before we lose people for the summer. We can see how your facilities are currently operating while we're in school, those kinds of things.
I could just chime in. I agree that by about May 15th, we're going to start losing attention to the summer. And so what I would probably do is try to hit the ground running if you authorized on April 1st, and try to have some preliminary work done speculatively, and then maybe about 2 weeks in, give the architecture team some scenarios based upon the directions I think we could go in. Historically, we've grown by about 10 students a year at the elementary level, maybe a little less. But if we're going to grow 10 a year for the next 10 years, what scenario would that suggest? If we're going to grow 25 a year because of some land development impacts, what does that suggest? So I think what I would probably do is have a real quick phase where I say, okay, these are what I think the scenarios are. And then in the meantime, I think Jessica could be working on the existing condition of the buildings, which is going to be a pretty significant issue, I think. And then her team would have some scenarios that they could start modeling cost off of. And then, the balance of April and early May, I could be working on all of the kind of basic demographics that we would need for a best grant package, and try to, if we wind up working with the committee, try to get the education component of the demographics done. And with the idea that maybe by early May, we would have some architectural concepts and costs ready for people to scratch their heads about. So, I don't know, that would be kind of the quick version of this that we discussed in preliminary terms, that I was going to prepare myself to be able to deliver if you folks decide you want to work with me as part of Carl's team.
Awesome. Thank you so much. It's way longer of an answer than I really needed for my idle curiosity.
Well, no. But
No, it
to
helped me.
understand
I'm
how it all
glad.
It helps
works.
me.
Right.
And I think that's the point. It's
Do
like,
you? Oh, go ahead. Do you have a question?
No, go ahead.
We're already in almost April, and to get this on a November ballot, do you feel like we're rushing the process, or do you feel like you do have adequate time to gather the information that is needed?
so I'll let Jessica.
I guess this would be for both.
We talked to both teams and talked to Superintendent Cooper about that. And I think the answer is yes, if we don't delay on starting, it meets the timeframes. And Jessica, I think you're the one that's probably the tightest timeline. But I think what you
Because
said
this is a
earlier
lot
is
of data and a lot of work.
starting now. You're
Yeah, we feel like this is a doable schedule. It will extend, past 2 months, right? So we are going to be working in the summer and asking some groups to meet with us during the summer, which for some school districts is not a problem. For other school districts, it's a heads up we'd like to give you if you tend to lose a lot of people for the summer. But as long as we can continue to meet with you, into June and that kind of thing as we finalize options and things like that, I think this is doable.
Awesome. Thank you. So, not that I wasn't paying attention, but while you guys were answering me, I went to look up ballot information. So we have to notify the county 100 days before the election that we're going to put a question on the ballot. We have to have the language finalized. We have to certify the ballot content 60 days before the election. So first September, we have to be able to do that. Sorry, I'm taking notes. So at the end of the day, we have until mid-August to get all this stuff done. Okay, sorry,
No worries. And I think part of the
that's the
concern
way my
is
brain works.
everybody disappears for the summer. And I think that's the
Right.
challenge that both our friend, our architects are concerned about. They want to get as much done before that happens, so they can get input and feedback and keep the process going.
You have something else? All right, any questions, comments, concerns, discussion? I was gonna say, before we
Now-
move forward to vote.
We
But
have
we
a
got
lot
it on.
of students, a lot of families that live within our district that take their children to another district. Is that data also gathered, or, I mean, because it's gonna say this, so many people live in the district, but like, I know in Midway by the elementary, a
Mhm.
good chunk of people send theirs to out of district in Fountain.
Right.
Just because it is a bigger school, more opportunities, their parents live, work in town or whatever. So I mean, is
I
that
can
all gonna
do
be,
that if you like.
I mean,
Yeah, Shannon.
because
you may
it'll
wanna
say so many people live in
speak
the
to that.
area,
I
but
would say what I would say, but I'll let you're the expert.
Well, a standard part of my work is what I call import and export of students. So we have students that come to us, especially the children of our staff that want to bring their children to work with them are coming to Hanover. And then other students are leaving us to go to Pueblo 60, Pueblo 70, Fountain, Fort Carson, Widefield, wherever. I know I just did an import export for Harrison 2, and we had Hanover kids in Harrison 2. So that's a standard part of my work. Yes, ma'am. And I would show you probably 5 or 6 years of history because CDE collects this data. So we can tell exactly what our trending has been. Is that getting worse recently? And strategically, the more scale you have with, more people with certain expertise as your district grows, you'll start to keep more of those folks. Because I think the pandemic has really taught us that small towns and less urbane environments are healthier places to raise families. And I think that, your market share will probably increase over time for that reason.
Shannon, is it possible to add a question on there that somehow says, what changes would you like to see in order for your students to stay within the district?
Of course, and that's a standard thing that I typically do. I actually write exit interviews for school districts that are losing kids. And that's one of the things that we ask. What could we have done to keep your business? And that's kind of a standard thing that I like, parents to say, were you looking for a unique curriculum? Did you leave because you had a STEM opportunity? Is arts education important to you? Were you looking for more technology in the building? Those kind of things I think can really inform what you want to put on a bond election so that you are more likely to keep families at home as opposed to losing them to bigger districts that might have more resources.
I think that information is valuable. Thank you. I'm glad to know that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
My only concern is that we need to figure out a way to get that survey
To
to those
everybody.
people.
Well, that's his job.
I know, right? I meant the royal
Well, he
we,
said
collective.
he can do like an import expert thing where he knows which students are where or whatever. So I mean, I don't know.
Send it to every address there is.
Yeah, in the district.
That
yeah.
works too.
We've done that before.
Oh, I like
Right,
it.
cool.
Thank you.
All right, any questions for the
None.
team?
That I can think of right now.
Okay, we have a vote coming up a little bit later. If you think of a question between now and then, you can ask it then. Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you.
And thank Jessica and Shannon for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yes, thank you both for your time this evening.
You're most welcome.
You're welcome. Have a good evening.
I don't think so, but I honestly don't think it's gonna be that long till we get there. Like, I really don't think these first three will take 5 minutes. All right, that brings us to 9.1 policy reviews. Do I have a motion to approve the policy reviews?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you,
policy
Mrs. Combs. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Swayze. These are no changes to the policies. Just our annual
Just
or
reviews.
tri-annual review. Questions? Lots of they're all
E's.
policies, so they're not very exciting.
reviews.
All right, call for the vote, please, sir.
Ms. Combs,
Aye.
Mr. Lippert, aye. Mr. Swayze,
Aye.
Ms. Brennan.
Aye. Motion carries. Policy reviews are approved. That brings us to 9.2, ACR2. Do I have a motion to approve ACR2?
Make a motion to approve ARC2.
Thank-
ACR2.
Thank you, Mrs. Combs. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Swayze. All right, this, if I remember correctly, is simply selections? Is this selections? or-
Naming me.
It's putting
Right.
him as the contact.
Right.
And then also just pretty much saying that if something were to happen, a qualified person contracted on behalf
Right.
of the district will
Right.
handle it.
Right,
And that was added in 2 sections.
This
and
is-
then the superintendent.
yeah, this is a thing that really, I don't know, every time we change superintendent, we gotta change this policy
Mhm.
or this regulation,
A lot of
policy, and the
different
exhibit.
words.
I don't know why we just can't put superintendent. I know, it's the law. All right,
There you go.
just like same silly reason I vote last every time.
Ask your uncle.
All right, anything else on ACR2? Call for the vote, please, sir.
Ms. Combs,
Aye.
Mr. Lippert, aye. Mr. Swayze,
Aye.
Ms. Brennan.
Aye, motion carries. ACR2 is approved. It brings us to 9.3, policy DAC. Do I have a motion to approve DAC?
Make a motion to approve the AC.
Thank you, Mr. Swayze. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Lippert. All this is so if you remember last month, we had a bunch of policy reviews. During those reviews, we noticed there was a selection that wasn't made, so we pulled DAC out. We've selected our business manager as the fill in the blank.
Right.
And we did a temporary approval first read on it last month. So questions, comments, concerns, discussion? Hearing none. Call for the vote, please, sir.
Ms. Combs,
Aye.
Mr. Lippert, aye. Mr. Swayze,
Aye.
Ms. Brennan.
Aye, motion carries. DAC is approved. Brings us to 9.4 master plan. So normally we in our motions, we have a cover sheet to say what the motion was. This time we had a cover sheet that says pick one of the two. So I'll make the motion to move forward with the master plan with all due speed immediately. Do I have a second?
And are you talking both options? Are you talking?
I think that's a TBD. I just want to get let's,
So
Okay.
this motion
My-
is to proceed forward now.
Yes.
And not waiting for the best grant to be awarded.
right,
Your motion is for us to choose which options we're choosing for the master plan and for the demographic, getting started as soon as possible, so that way we can get this ballot in time for the
I-
September 1st deadline.
my motion is simply to move forward, and I think we'll pick the options in future
Okay.
board meetings, not pick the options tonight.
Oh, we're gonna have to have a special because
You're short.
We
If
want
you-
to
you
get
wanna
I don't
start
think
this
so.
over.
Excuse me, I've been short my whole life.
I think we need to do it now.
All
I
right,
mean,
stand by,
just so that
stand by. Let me amend my motion, sir.
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion to move forward with the master plan, selecting both options presented by Conergy with all due haste. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you,
I
Mr.
just think
Swayze.
what
Now
you're
we can talk
saying-
more.
Okay, okay.
We just need to get the motion on
Okay,
the,
okay,
on the table.
okay.
All right, so,
Okay.
Why would
yeah,
we not do both?
the only reason, I ever had any hesitation with moving forward was budget year. That's been solved. I'm ready to throw it in next year's budget and move forward. And I think based on the uniqueness of our community, we definitely want the option one part of it to include the community. If you look at the,
Yes,
right down
we
there,
do.
work sessions to include the community. I think that option one with the community focus, obviously, we're gonna have to have a couple of option one meetings to do the first part that Shannon talked about.
You can have fun getting the community involved.
And that's
I
why we're
think-
You gotta
paying it.
do it. That's why
And then I
we
think
need
option
everything.
two directly speaks to what you're talking about is
Yes.
the survey of getting. those
I just
kids
don't
back.
know if we pay for option one, how much we're going to get out of it. I think the survey is
agree.
going, option two is the best way to address the community. I mean, I feel like these work sessions, we're paying $4,500 for us to discuss it, with a few select
Right.
community / employees. That's my hesitation on option one. I mean, yes, it's $4,500, but I mean, that's also $4,500 that we could save. We could also add it later on if we're getting a little bit more feedback.
So you think we
I
could do
feel
the
like-
work of option one
Correct, because
without formally
because
engaging?
in the 11.5, it says to meet with us during a work session and do that. So
Right.
that's part of the 11.5. I mean, we're gonna have our head maintenance and operation, whatever. Those people will be at that work session.
We can invite the DAC as well.
Correct. And
invite-
so
yes.
I just don't know the option one, we're going to get the bang for our buck with that one.
How do you feel about that, sir?
Is it worth it to have a facilitator? That's what you're paying for. You're paying
Yeah.
for someone to actually facilitate. the
If we
meeting.
can truly go back and choose option one, if that's the way it looks, choose an option two now. If we do have that option to add option one. You see,
My
I
only,
like that idea.
right, my only concern is if in the first couple of sentences of option one, that's the, getting a small group of people together and going through the facilities, right?
We've done a lot of that though.
That's true, we have.
You know what I'm saying? And I mean, and if we can invite those same people, that would have an impact with the facilities to like the work sessions that are included in the 11.5. I mean, or this is another option. We start with the option two with the surveys and the survey monkeys. If we're getting an outrageous amount of feedback, we can be like, oh, hey, we think that maybe we need to add option one. We can always do a special to add
Or,
that and then,
right, or instead of, if we're getting a lot of interest, right, we can scale back the option two and add elements of option one. I mean, at the end of the day, right, these are scalable to a degree, right?
Tailor to our needs.
Right.
yeah. I mean, I definitely think we need option two for sure. And we definitely need the 11.5 because I feel like this demographic information.
So
Well,
that's the meat
it's just,
of all
it's
this.
definitely needed for
Yeah.
any future growth or even non-growth in the district. We need to know where we're at, where we're headed.
So you want a next option one? How do you feel, Ed?
How you gonna get everybody together to discuss this stuff?
Because it's included in a work session up here.
That's fine. We'll all go.
We do
but
it
how
an
you-
invite to the community. I mean, can't
We've
we?
got to
invite them?
advertise the living snot out of it.
Yeah.
We got to get our sign fixed, Chuck, and then put it on the
That's
sign.
I don't feel,
I know.
Okay. No, what were you saying?
you guys have been here long enough,
I
and I've
know,
been
Ed.
here plenty long. This
Mhm.
community does not get involved. They don't care. The only ones that do, those have been here for a long time. The days, the ones that have been here a long time.
It'd be
The
nice
the new
maybe to get the
community-
Parks Board to weigh in on
Oh,
this
yeah.
and come in as
Right.
well as former board members. And
But at
I
the
think it'd
same
be
time,
nice.
Park
The-
board
the
is
point-
fine, but we need to get that side
Yes.
over there, over here.
I agree.
We have to have these meetings at Prairie Heights.
maybe we have. a work
These
session
people
on
over
it.
here will travel. Most of them over here don't care. We've got to get it together and get the people over there to
Okay.
come out of their
So
houses
do you
and
think
meet.
option one is necessary?
Well, if we put it on him to do it, I think it probably so.
But
But
would
if you
he,
guys are willing to do the work and get the DAC to throw out the survey out there and tell them, hey, we're having a spaghetti dinner, everybody, all adults come and we're gonna do a work session. We got to
that
get
would be
them-
nice. And then have a
we-
movie going for the
Actually,
kids or
don't do
something, you
spaghetti.
know?
Everybody makes
Like,
spaghetti just
I mean,
watery and
shoot.
running. Make some good meal.
We could do chicken
Lori's
Alfredo.
Lori's
That's just,
soup,
you know.
that stuff's awesome. But you gotta get them out over there to the
Because
meetings.
The way
That's
I'm
it. We're
reading,
not gonna have a good.
the
Right.
way I'm reading is it says he's gonna have, pretty much we're gonna select a committee. So I don't know if he's taking it all on himself or if we're just gonna have a committee, which I mean, at that point, we could be the committee.
I think we're all going to have to pitch in to get people to
Yes,
turn
for
out.
sure.
So
Absolutely.
what's nice
We have
and from a community standpoint, it would be nice to have an impartial person who's not just
Right.
facilitating this and saying, okay, well, let's listen to what this group says. Let's listen to what they say.
Like a
Then it's-
moderator.
None of us are actually the ones saying,
Right.
listen, we actually have an impartial. That's the only reason I think it might be beneficial there. I mean, I understand we could probably do it ourselves, but it might actually benefit the conversation.
And if I
Maybe.
With our.
could, I just, again, this is your decision. I don't want to muddle in your
No,
decision,
please.
but I think the other component that Western Demographics brings is a terrific and a tremendous amount of examples and experience from other school districts. And sometimes that is very persuasive. Just letting the people know, what's happened in different places, what the outcome's been and situations. Situational examples tend to be something that can have communities understand the issues and understand why it might be better to do one thing or another. And having him around to answer questions at those community meetings and use those examples, I think would be powerful. Again, that's just,
If they were to have one of those meetings, let's say they had a breakfast and people walk through, get their meal, and then they start talking about this stuff and he's there. He could go around answering the questions, tell them what's going on, why we're doing it. That's what he does, right?
that's by facilitating the meetings, you would have his access there. And then I guess part of, deciding if he's going to be here or, part of a virtual meeting, which might facilitate better with your community, having virtual meetings. We talked about that.
No, here.
Not our community.
Here, here,
Got it.
you
So those, but Shannon, if you're still on, maybe you could respond to some of these from your past experience and
Well, I am still monitoring and I'm delighted to help with processing your decision. I tend to do whatever you need within reason as given the number of hours we have for the activity. But, I think that, Hanover is going to be more of an in-person process for community members. I think it's going to take something other than just a master plan discussion to hold people's interest. I think that any kind of community involvement that you have is going to increase people's probability to vote yes for something because they have some skin in the game, so to speak. But on the other hand, the majority of the intent of that number one is to help you process a decision and help you make a decision. So, tonight I could propose to you that we do half of option one and that you folks run your process with your community. I try to give you materials that are small on a card that you could use to talk with people during the school event, that we have our cell phone survey that's very easy for people to do, and you use events to get people to participate in the survey. And then after we have developed all of the information demographically, the scenarios and the architectural data on building condition and what, adding space and eliminating portables would cost you, then I come in for 2 meetings right at the end and help you facilitate a process. And, I'm pretty good at helping people that don't necessarily all have the same point of view to come to a decision that they can all support, whether it's, a room full of PhDs discussing, closing a dozen schools, or it's a more broad-based community trying to decide whether or not portable classrooms should be part of their long-term strategy or not. I can kind of help you do some confidential straw polling, help you get to the point, okay, now we're at the point where we agree to A and B, but we don't know where we stand on C and D. What do we do on that? And I guess what I was trying to do by proposing that little consensus process is to try to get you to the point where you'll be able to declare to El Paso County that you're going to have an election and start working on your ballot with enough time for you to process that as a board. And those deadlines are going to creep up on you. And most of the districts I work with don't have board meetings during July. So I kind of proposed that option 1 idea there to try to help you folks get to a decision among yourselves in a timely fashion without dragging into July and, having this issue be something that you're rushed through the first couple of weeks of August. So, most counties are wanting a decision by August 23rd. And I think El Paso County might actually be sooner than that. You may have to certify a ballot in late July if that 100-day lead that your superintendent mentioned is what the county clerk's deadline is. Do the math. That's September, that's August, September, and October right there. And so, that may mean the last week of July is your deadline to inform the county that you want to go on the ballot. So, that's the only reason why I proposed that option 1. And I've been able to do that before and get people to be to some sort of a consensus on a high stakes issue like this. But if you kind of are unified as a board and you think you can handle the community interface piece of this with a little bit of help from me, maybe you cut that option 1 in half and have me come in right at the end and facilitate 2 meetings among yourselves to get to a ballot definition in a timely fashion so that you can make a decision as a board with a little bit of help. If you think you can make that decision on your own, then you probably don't need option 1 at all. So, I'll just leave that to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So, all right.
I'll tell you, I'll amend my decision. I kind of feel he brought up some good points here. We're under a time crunch. This is a lot going on. The more we try to dip our hands into it,
The messier
try
it
to
gets.
mess up the program, we got to do option 1 and 2, in my opinion, and let the professionals, the 40-year experience, handle the job with our assistance.
Right.
I mean, it's got to be a team effort. We're up against the clock. And we're not talking, yeah, it's a lot of money to you and me, but when we talk about the total project scope,
It's lost in around here.
yeah,
Yeah.
we might be shooting ourselves in the foot if we try to dabble into that.
Yeah. Anyone else? Thoughts? Comments, concerns, discussion?
I already gave you one.
All right.
I just have a question. On the master plan, it says reimbursable not to exceed $5,000. So is that 5,000 that we're gonna pay and then get back? Or,
That's incurred, and Jessica's still on, my understanding that she shared that with the maximum amount of travel.
okay, that we would reimburse them. Okay, I got you. Okay, I got you. Perfect. Okay. I have what I need.
Everybody good? Questions? Any further questions? Any further
No,
discussion?
thank you for everyone for
Yeah.
your research. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the presentations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for answering our questions.
You're welcome.
Oh, please, sir.
So
So,
before we vote, this is for both the whole
Option
shebang.
one, option two.
One. So
Yep, that's what I
demographics,
moved
option
for.
one, option two, and the master plan.
Yep,
Okay, just want to make sure.
that's the motion on the table. Call for the vote, please, sir.
Ms. Combs?
Aye.
Mr. Lippert is an aye. Mr. Swayze?
Aye.
Mr. Underwood?
Aye, motion carries. Mr. Superintendent? Scan your field of fire, sir.
As soon as you
Sorry, I
can.
don't know how to say it any other way.
Rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
You don't need to wait
Thank
for
you.
the first.
Yeah, that first was a hypothetical, Shannon. That was just a hypothetical. I was just trying to get an idea. And Jessica. All right, thank you
Well, I
both.
look forward to working with you.
Yes, as of right now. Thanks, man.
I'll get started.
Thank you.
Tonight, good.
Thank you.
Just don't text and drive.
Unless it's talk to text. No.
Drive safe.
Yes, drive safe.
I know Lori
You
did
know,
a good
you
job.
only married her for her craftsmanship,
That's,
right?
that's the only reason.
She could probably build you a house, huh? Yeah,
I'll
pretty
build,
close.
I'll let her build you a house.
She probably does all your animals' houses, huh?
You know what, Randy, if she does it on your budget, I'll let her do it.
Okay. All right, that brings us to 9.5, Education Workforce Program Grant Assurances. Do you have a motion to approve 9.5?
Make a motion to approve not 9.5.
Thank you, Mrs. Combs. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Lippert. So this is the standard. We're giving the superintendent permission to apply for a grant that he may or may not get, may or may not use.
But it will supplement, not supplant funds.
Well, that's a nice grant.
Did we already talk about this one?
It was an
No.
email.
All right, this,
It was email.
Yeah.
Tonight.
I know I
this,
heard
Well,
something
also-
about it.
yeah, why don't I go over it anyway?
Well, hold on real quick.
I mean, it
So
was pretty
in the-
straightforward.
do you
Yeah.
guys get the weekly CASB update emails?
I used to, but I don't anymore. I don't know why.
Okay, we gotta look into that.
Hmm.
It was in 2 weeks ago, CASB update. The fact that this grant existed and what it was and how it worked and,
For retention, right?
and
Yeah,
recruitment.
And
recruitment,
recruitment, yep.
retention, and,
Yeah.
for our employees.
Go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
That's basically all I wanted to say is it's a grant using the ESSER money that went to CDE that they've got to spend and they want to spend it now and they're kicking it. This is a grant that they're using to actually fund some of it on recruitment and retention of our workforce.
So these
And,
can help with like, if we get it, like the steps and stuff like that, like we can use.
Well,
that.
remember, this is non-recurring.
Yeah, this
You
is
don't
not
wanna do it
recurring.
on-
So
Okay, I just,
you're
So like the
thinking along the
bonuses
right
or-
line.
okay,
A $2,000 holiday bonus.
okay, or like the signing
Well,
bonus,
Maybe
or,
not
okay.
that much. but
Well,
yes.
Yeah, I got
okay.
you.
Randy's trying to get himself a bonus over there.
I figured I'd spend the whole $100,000 in one shot.
No, goodness.
See, I just made
I
that
like the
job
way you
Wait a
easier.
minute, we can't do that then. We can't do that.
All
That's down on paperwork.
So once again, this is the only commitment that we're making here is that if we get the grant, that we will follow the standard grant rules.
Correct.
Which is just
Right.
spend the money on whatever we
Wrote the
allowed to
grant
spend
for
it
it.
on.
Yeah.
Right.
And we'll account for it separately and fill out all their forms and all that fun stuff.
It's another headache for Pat.
Well, GSN's gonna actually follow a lot of this as a part of their. They're gonna make sure we're.
Well, thank you for bringing it to us. I mean, it's good. and I hope
Anything
get
we
it.
can do for our employees and to help them out is important in my opinion.
Okay, anything else? Call for the vote, please, sir.
Ms. Combs?
Aye.
Mr. Lippert, aye. Mr. Swayze?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Grant assurances are approved. All right, that brings us to 10.0 information updates. As always, thank you everyone for your amazing detail. You know, I thought last month when I read the preschool update that I would know by this month what pet they've chosen. She's still leaving us hanging. Not cool, Jody. Not cool.
I'm sure she's on, tell her. I'm sure
No,
she
she's
hears
not
it.
on.
Oh, she's not? Oh.
All right, anything else?
I like that the junior class has done a snack cart to raise money for the prom. Back in my day, we had vending machines. And that's how a portion of the vending machines went to the senior class or the junior, whoever was elected that year. And it helped with the senior trip, and it was a drink machine, and it was a snack machine. I always wondered what happened to the vending machines. I don't know. So I like that they brought a snack cart because I can send my kid a couple dollars sometimes when I'm low on groceries.
Or
So
some
thank
vending
you.
machines.
And at the
Where's
end-
it at?
We just gotta load it and get it loaded with some stuff.
Program also trumps some of that because you know, I have that stuff available.
During certain times.
That might have been Michelle Obama.
It was Michelle
That's
Obama that
okay.
did that, and that's when they all disappeared. Have Randy sign that.
I
Okay.
wasn't gonna call out names.
I mean,
but
I don't want
okay.
to get political.
I don't-
However,
I
if
don't
there's a
mind.
way we could possibly do
It's
it
a
for like
fact, it's a
before
fact,
school or
facts,
after
it's a
school,
fact.
and it could help benefit one of the classes, that would be wonderful. I like that they have the snack cart. That's all.
Yeah, and just to add to it, Chuck went through that CD inspection and did awesome in that report. Great job on that thing.
All right, anything else on the updates? Awesome.
I think it's awesome that the PhD got the jackets for the students that did not have any. That is awesome. I think that you guys are doing wonderful things over there with the elementary, with the bikes, the jackets, the shoes, the pajama drive that y'all did. You guys at PhD definitely put the elementary first, and that's very appreciative because a jacket can mean the world to a kid when they're cold. So that is amazing. And the Underwood family, thank you.
We didn't do it for that reason.
It doesn't matter. They also had pitched in. So just once again, that's showing that our community is coming together, not as a board, but strictly as community members, taking care of each other. I like seeing that. It warms my heart. So thank you.
I can't have my heart warmed because it's too small. It'll explode. All right,
You're
anything
only
else
that
on the updates?
Thank
All right.
you. Thank
I'll make
you.
a motion to move into executive session
I wanted to say
to
that
discuss
so bad.
personnel matters and give the superintendent feedback on his performance in accordance with CRS 24640224F. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Combs. Call for the vote, please, sir.
Ms. Combs,
Aye.
Mr. Lippert, aye. Mr. Swayze.
Aye.
Mr. Underwood.
Aye. Motion carries. We are moving into executive session at 7:51 PM.
Thank you for saying that back there.
Look at me
Yeah,
like, yeah,
but see, the
freeze,
thing
wife,
is-
freeze.
If it's made of gold, it's a good investment because gold
Yeah,
is
it's going out the roof.
right? All right, we have reconvened at 9:26 PM. In attendance are President Randy Underwood,
Vice President Danielle Combs.
Board Secretary TJ Lippert.
Director Ed Swayze.
Superintendent Kyle Cooper.
so that brings us to other business. Do we have any other business?
Everyone be safe.
That brings us to the adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Ms. Combs. Do I have a second?
I'll say.
Thank you, Mr. Lippert. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. We are adjourned at 9:27 PM.